Leo stared out at the city lights, but he didn't see them. All he saw were the mounting bills, the unanswered emails, the growing distance in his relationships. It felt like he was adrift in a vast, cold ocean with no land in sight. The weight on his shoulders was crushing, a physical ache that settled deep in his chest. Every day was a battle, and he was losing. He tried everything he could think of, working harder, sleeping less, pushing people away to focus. But the more he struggled, the deeper he seemed to sink. The city, once a place of dreams, now felt like a cage. He was trapped, and hope was a word he barely remembered. One afternoon, seeking a brief escape, he wandered into a small, quiet park he'd never noticed before. He sat on a bench, head in his hands, the picture of despair. That's when an older man, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, sat down on the other end of the bench. He didn't say anything at first, just sat in a comfortable silence. Leo felt a strange sense of calm just from his presence. Finally, the man spoke, his voice warm and steady. "A heavy burden for a sunny day, young man." Leo looked up, surprised. He hadn't realized anyone had noticed. He just nodded, unable to find the words. The man's name was Samuel. He introduced himself and spoke of the seasons, of how even the longest winters must give way to spring. His words were simple, yet they held a profound wisdom that cut through Leo's fog of anxiety. Leo found himself opening up, the words tumbling out of him, the stress, the fear, the feeling of being utterly alone. Samuel listened patiently, his gaze never wavering. He didn't offer easy solutions or empty platitudes. Instead, when Leo had finished, Samuel shared a story from his own life. He spoke of a time when he, too, had faced a storm that threatened to capsize his world. A time when he felt he had reached the very end of his own strength. "In our weakest moments," Samuel said softly, "we find a different kind of strength, one that doesn't come from us." He then asked Leo a question that caught him off guard. "Have you ever tried talking to the one who created the storm and the calm?" Leo was confused. Samuel clarified, "I'm talking about prayer, son. Not as a list of demands, but as a conversation. A surrender." The idea felt foreign to Leo. Prayer was something from his childhood, a forgotten ritual. He was skeptical, a man who believed in action, in tangible results. How could simply talking into the void possibly change his very real, very pressing problems? He voiced his doubts to Samuel. "I don't even know what to say, or who I'm talking to." Samuel smiled gently. "You don't need fancy words. You just need an honest heart. Speak your worries, your fears, your anger. Just let it out. The who is less important than the why. You're seeking peace, aren't you?" Samuel's sincerity was disarming. He wasn't preaching. He was sharing a lifeline that had once saved him. For the first time in months, a tiny flicker of something other than despair sparked within Leo. It wasn't quite hope, but it was curiosity. That night, back in his apartment, surrounded by the silent reminders of his failures, Leo felt that crushing weight return. Samuel's words echoed in his mind. Feeling he had nothing left to lose, he closed his eyes. It felt awkward, foolish even. He stammered at first, his voice a whisper in the quiet room. "Hello? If anyone's listening, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost. I'm scared. I can't do this anymore. I've tried everything. I need help." He poured out everything, the financial pressure, the loneliness, the feeling of being a disappointment. He didn't ask for a miracle. He just laid his brokenness bare. As he spoke, something shifted. The tension in his shoulders eased. A single tear traced a path down his cheek. But it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of release. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sliver of peace. The next day, nothing had magically changed. The bills were still there. The problems hadn't vanished. But Leo felt different. The crushing weight was lighter, more manageable. He decided to visit the park again, hoping to see Samuel. He found him on the same bench as if he were waiting. Leo told him what he had done. Samuel listened, a knowing look in his eyes. "Prayer doesn't always change the circumstances," he explained. "Often it changes us, so we can face the circumstances. It clears the fog so you can see the path, one step at a time." They talked for a long time that day, and for many days after. Samuel became a mentor, a friend. He never told Leo what to do, but guided him with questions and shared wisdom, always encouraging him to continue his newfound practice of prayer. Slowly, Leo began to rebuild. With a clearer mind, he saw solutions he'd missed before. He reached out to a friend for advice on his finances, and was surprised by the support he received. He called his family, not to complain, but just to connect, and felt the warmth of their love bridge the distance he had created. Each small step was a victory. When an unexpected job opportunity came up, something he never would have had the confidence to apply for weeks earlier, he went for it. He didn't know if he would get it, that the outcome no longer defined his self-worth. He prepared for the interview, but before he went in, he took a quiet moment. He didn't pray to get the job. He prayed for the strength to be himself, for the clarity to speak honestly, and for peace, whatever the result. The interview was unlike any he'd had before. He was calm, confident, and genuine. He spoke not just of his skills, but of what he had learned through his recent struggles: resilience, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. A few days later, he got the call. He got the job. The relief was immense, but it was overshadowed by a deeper feeling: gratitude. He knew this wasn't just his own doing. He immediately went to the park to tell Samuel the good news. But Samuel wasn't there. Leo waited, returning day after day, but the bench remained empty. He asked around, but no one seemed to know the kind old man. It was as if he had appeared just when Leo needed him most, and vanished once his work was done. Leo was sad not to be able to thank him, but he understood. Samuel had given him a gift far greater than advice. He had given him a key. The key wasn't a magic wand to solve all his problems, but a tool to find strength within himself, and from a source beyond himself. Life would still have its storms, its challenges, and its moments of doubt. He knew there would be other struggles, other moments of darkness. But now, he was no longer adrift. He had an anchor. He had learned to navigate the turbulent waters not by fighting the waves, but by finding stillness in the middle of the storm. Months later, Leo found himself back in that same park. The sun was shining, and children were playing. He sat on the bench, not with despair, but with a heart full of peace. A young woman sat down on the other end, her face etched with a familiar worry. She stared blankly, lost in her own thoughts. Leo sat in a comfortable silence for a moment, then turned to her with a kind and gentle smile. "A heavy burden for a sunny day," he said, his voice warm and steady. The cycle of hope was continuing. "Thank you for watching. If you or someone you know is struggling, remember that talking about it is a sign of strength. Don't hesitate to reach out for help. Subscribe for more stories that inspire.